What happens when power is misused and divine authority is defied? The story of Queen Jezebel is a tragic tale of ambition, cruelty, and the inevitable downfall that follows when one challenges the will of God. Jezebel's rise to power seemed unstoppable, but her ruthless actions led to a grim prophecy that would shadow her every move. From the introduction of Baal worship to her tragic end, Jezebel's life serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of tyranny and deceit. Now let's explore the rise and fall of Queen Jezebel, a tale that still resonates through history. Jezebel's royal ascent. Jezebel was a powerful and determined woman who entered Israel's royal court as the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians. Her marriage to King Ahab wasn't just a royal event. It marked the start of a significant change in Israel's culture and religion. Jezebel wasn't content with merely being a queen. She aimed to bring the worship of Baal, a foreign god, into the very heart of Israel's spiritual life. Under her strong influence, Ahab embraced her beliefs, leading Israel into a dark period filled with idolatry and moral decline. This marriage was much more than a political move. It profoundly affected the nation's identity and beliefs. As Jezebel's power and influence grew, so did her determination to mold Israel according to her vision. Her rise to power wasn't just about becoming queen. It was about transforming Israel's way of life in a way that would leave deep and lasting impacts on the people and their faith. Jezebel's ascent to power signaled a turning point that would shape Israel's future for generations. The introduction of Baal worship. When Jezebel became queen, things in Israel began to change drastically. Under her influence, King Ahab built altars and temples dedicated to Baal, steering the people of Israel away from the worship of Yahweh. This wasn't just a minor adjustment in religious practices. It was a dramatic shift that turned the spiritual life of Israel upside down. Jezebel didn't just suggest Baal worship. She pushed it forcefully, making sure that temples and shrines dedicated to Baal were everywhere. Her influence was so strong that it led to the persecution of Yahweh's prophets, as she sought to erase any trace of the old faith. This change wasn't just about new temples or different rituals. It created widespread confusion and unrest among the people. Israel, once united under the worship of Yahweh, was now divided and uncertain, as the new practices brought about by Jezebel disrupted the spiritual and social fabric of the nation. The introduction of Baal worship marked a significant and troubling period in Israel's history, one that would have long-lasting effects on the kingdom. Persecution of the prophets. Jezebel's dedication to Baal wasn't just strong, it was ruthless and relentless. She wasn't content with simply promoting Baal worship. She wanted to eliminate any challenge to her beliefs. This led to one of the darkest periods in Israel's history, as Jezebel orchestrated the brutal massacre of Yahweh's prophets. Her goal was clear: to silence anyone who remained faithful to Yahweh. Fear spread across the land, as those who still worshiped Yahweh had to go into hiding, constantly looking over their shoulders, fearing Jezebel's wrath. But even in the face of such terror, there were those who refused to be silenced. Prophets like Elijah stood firm, challenging Jezebel's authority at every turn. Elijah's bold defiance became a symbol of resistance, leading to dramatic confrontations that shook the kingdom. These confrontations weren't just battles of words. They were clashes of faiths that exposed the growing divide within Israel. Jezebel's persecution of the prophets highlighted the deepening conflict between the worship of Baal and the worship of Yahweh, setting the stage for a spiritual and cultural struggle that would define this era in Israel's history. The confrontation on Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel became the stage for one of the most intense and unforgettable moments in Jezebel's story. The prophets of Baal, confident in their power, stood against Elijah, a lone prophet of Yahweh, in a showdown that would decide whose God was real. Elijah didn't just issue a challenge. He made a bold demand for proof. As the people of Israel watched, the prophets of Baal called out to their God all day long, but nothing happened. Then, in a moment that would be remembered for generations, Elijah called upon Yahweh, and fire from heaven instantly consumed his sacrifice. This miraculous event didn't just prove Yahweh's power, It completely discredited Baal and everything Jezebel had worked for. The people of Israel were stunned, and the tide began to turn. The prophets of Baal, who had once held so much influence, were executed, and for a moment, the worship of Yahweh was restored in Israel. The confrontation on Mount Carmel was more than just a victory for Elijah. It was a powerful reminder of Yahweh's dominance and a crushing defeat for Jezebel's prophets. Naboth's vineyard, a tale of injustice. Jezebel's ruthless nature reached a new level of cruelty in the story of Naboth's vineyard, a tragic tale that highlights her willingness to do anything to get what she wanted. When Naboth, a humble and faithful man, refused to sell his ancestral land to King Ahab, Jezebel saw it as a challenge to her power. She didn't just accept the refusal. She devised a wicked plan to take the vineyard by force. Jezebel falsely accused Naboth of blasphemy, a crime punishable by death, and ensured that he was unjustly executed. This wasn't just a simple act of greed. It was a gross miscarriage of justice that shook the moral foundation of Israel. The land that had been in Naboth's family for generations was taken from him through lies and deceit, all because Jezebel refused to be denied. But this act of injustice did not go unnoticed. Elijah, the prophet of Yahweh, prophesied divine retribution against Jezebel, signaling the beginning of her downfall. This cruel and calculated act marked the start of a chain of events that would lead to Jezebel's eventual demise. The prophecy of doom. Elijah's words echoed like a dark cloud over Jezebel's reign, casting a shadow that she could never escape. The prophet didn't just warn her, he foretold a terrifying fate that would haunt her until the end. According to Elijah's prophecy, Jezebel would meet a violent and gruesome death, with her body left in the streets to be devoured by dogs. This wasn't just a vague threat, it was a clear and chilling prediction of the divine judgment that awaited her. Every decision Jezebel made from that moment on was overshadowed by this prophecy. The fear of what was to come loomed large, contributing to the unrest and rebellion that eventually arose against her rule. The people of Israel, witnessing her relentless and ruthless ways, couldn't ignore the ominous prediction that Elijah had spoken. It served as a constant reminder that no amount of power or cruelty could protect her from the fate that had been foretold. The prophecy of doom was not just about Jezebel's end. It was a sign that divine justice would prevail, no matter how long it took. The tragic end. Jezebel's reign of power and terror came to a sudden and brutal end, just as Elijah had foretold. During a coup led by Jehu, the fierce warrior who would stop at nothing to overthrow her, Jezebel met her fate. She was thrown from a high window, crashing to the ground where her body was trampled by horses. The prophecy that had loomed over her for so long was fulfilled in the most gruesome way possible, as her remains were left to be devoured by dogs. This wasn't just the end of a queen. It was a powerful and tragic lesson in the consequences of defying divine authority. Jezebel, who had ruled with an iron fist and brought so much suffering to Israel, could not escape the judgment that had been promised. Her downfall was swift, and her death served as a stark reminder to all who witnessed it. No matter how strong or feared a ruler may be, those who lead through tyranny and deceit are destined to face the consequences. Jezebel's tragic end became a symbol of divine justice and the inevitable fall of those who oppose it. As we've seen, Jezebel's story is a powerful reminder of the consequences of defying divine authority and leading with tyranny. If you found this exploration into her rise and fall insightful, be sure to subscribe to Scripture Chronicles for more stories from the Bible that reveal timeless lessons and truths. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to join the conversation. Stay tuned for more intriguing tales from the pages of Scripture.